Welcome to the 6th episode of the WisMissus Podcast, reading, writing, and roaming around Wisconsin, the Midwest, and beyond. Oh, I am getting better at that. Getting better at that. So today we're going to talk about book launch basics. We were going to talk about that a month ago, but then we interrupted, our programming to talk about the article that had gone viral about, the article title was "Nobody Buys Books Anymore." And it was based off of the information provided in a book that came from the transcript from the trial between the Department of Justice and Public Penguin Random House as they were trying to buy Simon and Schuster. And it was like an monopoly kind of case, basically. So that bubbled up to the top of our news feeds as authors. And then we decided to talk about that last time. And this time we're going to focus on book launch basics, but also not so basics and some things that we've done right, where we've learned things that we've done wrong. So we've learned from those things.
That's my part of the show, is talking about what we've done wrong.
Oh no. I've done it too. And so part of it is anybody listening or watching us, you do not need to go through the same pain. We will share those things so that you're not stuck, doing those things accidentally. So we'll share that. So,
and if you do make mistakes, we're here for you. So tell us about it. Add it in the comments, no judgment. I just saw somebody on Twitter this morning, and she was at a book sale, an author debut. She was selling her novels and she sold 2. And she got all this wonderful responses on Twitter from, hang in there. We've all been there. So we've been there too. If you've made marketing mistakes, we're here for you.
Yes, we've all done it. And here's the thing too, for particularly the indie pub author. If you need to, say, backtrack and do some things that maybe you wished you would have done at your launch, there's a lot of things you can do later. There's no expiration date on a lot of this stuff. So if you're coming to this conversation thinking, oh, my book launched like 2 months ago and I'm feeling really bad because I didn't do what I meant to do. Maybe, things were going on in the world or your life and you just didn't do the things you wanted to do at the time. We gotcha. You can pick up and a lot of these things and do them now and ongoing throughout the coming months and years for sure. So
and that's, I think, the key takeaway, if you don't stop listening, but it's a long game. If you look at it as a long game, because that's truly what it is for especially indie authors, that's just what it takes these days to break through the clutter. And in fact, we are we just have a knack for discovering hot topics as far as I'm concerned, Val, because on Substack just this morning, before we started recording, I found an article that was titled, "Why Are Debut Novels Failing to Launch?" So I thought that would tie into the book marketing basics. And also Jane Friedman, there's already a reply to that article. And if you want to see it, it'll be on one of our Substacks, Bubbles and Fiber, TK Sheffield, or Valerie Biel, Reading, Writing, Roaming. So you'll find that article, if you are on Substack. But Jane Friedman responded already, and she said, in summary, authors and publishers alike get too focused on prestige publicity placements rather than smaller, quieter efforts that would reach their ideal readership and sell books, which I thought was a wonderful summary to book marketing basics today.
Yes, I agree completely, because while it's wonderful, say, to get featured in, say, a big publication or, on a list, best summer reads, whatever, the traction that you gain from those is usually very short-lived.
Right.
And it may not reach your ideal audience. For instance, you get, like a website that is, say, a general type website, maybe not for your genre. Say you write a mystery, right? Not everybody reads mysteries. And so that funnel is too broad for some of those, larger PR placements, publicity placements. So whether you can say, yay, look where I am, and you hold that like shiny magazine article open, or you can, show the interview you got on a wonderful TV show, for instance, that stuff is very short in terms of its reach to the audiences. And it often doesn't generate the sales that you think it might. I do like what Jane says a lot. And I assume she wrote the article, or is it somebody else writing?
She just wrote it. She wrote, this was a rebuttal, and Cassie Maines Murray, Cassie, Cassie, Maines, Mannes, Murray, Murray, wrote about building intimacy, and Jane responded with a note to that, I believe. I believe that's what I just have a copy of it. I just took it off. I just found it on Substack again. And I think the key word of Jane's quote was ideal readership.
Yes.
Finding your ideal readers, right? Now, nobody, I don't think anyone has a perfect formula for that. However, again, going back to the idea of the long game, have fun with it. Imagine who your ideal reader could be, and then try and find them. For example, I write stories for readers who want to laugh and escape. They're comedies, they're lighthearted, no politics, no bad language, no sex and violence on the page. It's a mystery, so it happens, but you're not going to read about it on the page. I'm going to, that's going to happen what they call off stage. So I seek out those readers who want that. And I try to explain that in everything that I write. I try to be fun and engaging in interviews because I feel like that lightheartedness comes through. And that's what I enjoy reading myself. And also, it's not that I don't cover serious themes like friendships and addiction and those things, but I look at them through a lighthearted Midwestern lens. So if you're maybe from the East Coast and you're a big city person and you're used to a different life, these books may not be for you. But I'm seeking that reader who wants to laugh and escape and have a beach read, a holiday read, a holiday October mystery, those kinds of things that are going to be more fun.
And it's a very targetable audience too. So it's the cozy mystery audience, kind of with a twist too. I think with what you write, but that is an audience you can target on Facebook. You can target them with your categories on Amazon, even Amazon ads. I know you're not doing those yet, but we probably should talk about that. But that's
we'll talk about See what I mean? But book marketing basics, right? Everybody, you need to find someone. If you're like me, a newbie, and Val is the expert, you find someone who has the Amazon, who knows Amazon inside and out and can help you with your ads.
Right. And just positioning well your book description. And that kind of leads to making sure you've got a short description. So talk about your log line work, because you're so good at this, and you're going to be teaching this at the Wisconsin Writers Association conference, right? In the fall, in October.
In October, the registration just went out. So in October in La Crosse, WWA, Wisconsin Writers Association, will be having its annual conference for 2 days at Stony Creek Lodge in Onalaska/La Crosse. Lots of fun. Membership is very affordable. Val, you're also going to be there presenting. I'm going to talk about the things that writers sometimes don't want to talk about, and that is short description and logline. So I'm going to give you a formula to write those, get them out of the way, because you'll need them in your book marketing basics. You'll need them for a press release. You'll need them for a book description. You will need them for your Amazon listing. You will need them when you approach an indie bookstore to describe your books. And to have those written and at hand, and your 30-second elevator speech is part of book marketing basics.
Yes, it is. And you're going to rely on those things over and over and over again. So on that note, let's just talk about your prep work for your launch in terms of the things that you're going to have handy. So you just talked about your log line, your short description, and you're going to be asked to fill that in so many places for awards or reviews, or if you're pitching, say, to a blogger and you want them to read your book and review the book, there's going to be lots of times that you want that. You're going to need your longer description as well. You're going to need your biography, usually in third person. But there's, a lot of people who write them in first person, and they're very fun. So for instance, if you, because you have a more lighthearted approach to your books, are, humorous and fun, you can have some fun then with your biography a little bit too. And I see people do that very well. Even in the children's market, sometimes people have quite a bit of fun. If they think that children or, younger kids are going to be reading their bio, then they don't, it's not quite so stuffy and serious, and it might be written in first person. So I don't think that's necessarily a hard and fast rule anymore, but you might want to have the more professional third person one, if you're going, say, to a library and asking them if they'll have you in as an author, for a program or a bookstore, so you do need those professional things too. We should talk about media kits. You're probably going to want to have your media kit ready to go. That would include your press release about your book coming out, your release. It would include, again, your biography, reviews. Maybe you've gotten some advanced reviews, and we'll hold on that. And I'll talk about reviews, and the approach you should have, to getting those as part of your launch. You should also have your book cover in an easily downloadable format, image, your headshot, right? You should have a professional headshot.
Yes, and let me just say about headshots, don't be shy. Really and truly, I know, a lot of people don't want them. They don't choose to be on camera and it makes them uncomfortable and they don't like the way they look, or, they focus on a flaw or something. And I encourage you, go outside with your cell phone and just start taking pictures. You know what? Um, good lighting. Good lighting is key. Don't, on a really bright sunny day when it's right overhead, that's not the time to do it. But, golden hour, early morning in the sunset, and just have fun. And remember, the first shots, one of them might be fabulous, and then the rest are not so good. Or you go out and take some, and then you go take more, and then you might take more. You're going to find a decent one that you like. I promise you the shot is there and you'll find it. Just be yourself. And then remember my favorite quote from Mariah Carey of all her songs, of everything she's ever said. She said, "Bad lighting is abusive."
Oh, it is. And actually look at us today. So look
Yes.
how good you are lit perfectly. I have made the decision to sit in my dining room today, which has windows on 3 sides. So this
Great
is not ideal. This is already a problem. I know this, but I decided to sit here anyway.
Well, then I do love natural sunlight, but you adjusted for a lot of it.
I did. And so we pulled the shade down, and actually, let's just try something. I'm going to be curious here if this helps. I'm going to pull the shade up on the opposite side. Lighting is crazy, you guys. So I'm taking a mini field trip here to the other side of the room.
Yes. So here comes the incidental music from, the Jeopardy incidental music.
So let's see what that does. Hang tight. Is that better? I'm not even sure that that's better. Wait.
Yeah. No, I think it. Oh yeah, there we go.
There.
Different angles. Yeah, there we go.
Because now the light's coming in. Okay, it matters. It matters.
Yeah,
so
it matters. But the point is to do it, right?
Yes.
And well, the whole point of this, right? So we've talked about a press kit, we've talked about a headshot, we've talked about your short synopses and your log lines, okay? And we talked about Amazon ads, finding someone to help you with those. But the thing about it is, at some point, you just have to jump in and do it. You have to say, okay, maybe this draft, this draft is as best as I'm going to do. I've got a decent cover that I really like. I've got some friends who can give me a review, or I've got some professionals. I've submitted out advanced copies. I've got a website. I've got a social media presence, Instagram or Facebook or something. I'm going to take a deep breath and jump in. And
That's
so, that's part of it too, is that courage to just say, you know what, it might not be exactly perfect, but I'm going to do it now.
It's been a while since I've put a book out. I do this all the time for other people. I do all this work. And when it came then time for me to do my own to-do list, I felt a little paralyzed. Like, wait, this is my book now. And then I started to get those doubts, like, wait, is it really good enough? Like, should I really move forward? It's silly, but it's almost really helpful then to be recording this now and to assure people this is a normal reaction. Even if you have quite a bit of experience with this, you have that moment where you're like, and then you just have to jump and you have to do it, because if you've done your due diligence, you should be ready to go with all these things. No,
there's some online things that will help you as well. So written word media.
Oh, they're wonderful.
Readsy.
Yep.
Readsy, they're fabulous. Book Funnel. There are so many free resources where you can go and read about marketing. I highly recommend Readsy. I've had nothing but, excellent experiences on Readsy. Written Word Media does the promo stacks, and it will help you. If you're overwhelmed by buying ads, they will help you. You can buy a stack and send things out. And then I have not used BookFunnel yet, but I'm probably going to move in that direction. And I've heard people say wonderful things about BookFunnel.
Yeah, and there are a lot of there's a few different uses for BookFunnel. It is a system by which you can send your books to people who are either getting them for free for reviews, right? You can also use a book funnel delivery system for your direct sales. And that's a very different conversation. And we're not going to go into that. It's a complex thing if you were to sell your books directly off your website, but there are systems in place to help you along the way. And Written Word Media has wonderful articles. So does Reedsy. I am doing a book launch basics 8-part series. This month is June, and we will be having the third in that, but it's going to run pretty much all year. So there's a lot of resources out there. Check out your favorite, places, and they have a list of other places that they recommend, other resources that they recommend too.
Well, and then join groups. The Wisconsin Writers Association, the dues are very, very minimal, and they offer classes taught by Lori Shear, for example. And then we have a conference coming up in October, and it's a wonderful place to network with other writers, get reviews for your book, free review if you like. They have a coordinator who does that. There are resources that they have. They have the Jade Ring contest. It's a wonderful way to get to know other writers and be encouraged in the process of doing this to get to the point where you want to market your book. They have a calendar where you can put your book launch on their calendar. And
That's right. I've forgotten about that. Yes.
they do. So I hope, you know what? I have a one coming
Actually,
up.
I got to put that on my list. That's not on my list right now. So I got to get that on my list.
Okay. There we go. Well, and then I have a short list. Now you're the expert on the book marketing basics. I'm the newbie coming in. I had my first one come out last November, and I just had one come out in May. And then I wrote down a short list about what I learned, doing this. Is number one, make lists. Make lists of, I have a list of cozy book reviewers. I have a list of people who might want to review, do an advanced reader copy. I have a list of those. I have a list of media. I have a list of indie bookstores. So start making lists. Understand that time is on your side if you plan well. I had struggle with planning at first. I'm just getting a handle on that, frankly. But if you're a planner, that's fabulous because it takes so long to plan a book launch. So make time your friend and plan well. Write your log line, your short description, and read the Valerie Biel book launch basics blog posts. And and jump in. At some point, make the decision, okay, here's the date I'm jumping in.
Yes. I like your list. I think that makes sense to, really Excel spreadsheets or whatever kind of spreadsheet you like. They're your friends, and to have all of that, information at your fingertips as you move through the launch process. And what's nice is you do the heavy lifting, you do the list creation and all that first time. You add to it over time. And what's nice is then it gets easier and easier for your subsequent books. So
well, and that's the other point. Once you have those lists in place, once you have your indie bookstore list, once you have your media list, once you have your reviewer list, you use it for the next one, right? For the most part, as long as it's in the same category, same genre. So, yes, you're doing heavy lifting in the front end, but at the same time, because you're playing a long game, it will benefit you as you move forward.
And for those of you who are maybe traditionally published, you're on a different kind of calendar and schedule that you do not necessarily control. Well, let's be honest, you don't control it at all, which is fine. And you also probably have a long lead time to get all these things ready, and then you're going to coordinate with your publisher what they're going to do. If you're getting marketing help or you're not, then you're going to know what lands in your lap for what you need to do. And if you're indie published, my best advice is always don't rush. Don't rush. And part of it is choose you're picking a launch date. You maybe pick a date that is, specific for certain reasons, whatever, that's fine. But just make sure you're not crunching your time too much, because it does take time to get these reviews and endorsements. And you should be doing that and asking people to read the book in advance and getting all of those, little review clips so that they're available for you to promote the book as you're launching it. And then we should talk about something too, that this has come up in questions to me through the years: launch versus release. Sometimes when we talk about book launch, really, we're talking about it being synonymous with book release. So people get confused. Launch, they're thinking that means it has to be an event. It can be an event, but you don't have to have a launch event like a party, at a local, place where people come and celebrate. You might want to have one. but you don't have to. And in fact, I only had one for my first book, and I'm now planning one in the fall for what will be my fourth and fifth books coming out. But in between, I did like online launches. Like I celebrated it. I did social media stuff. I got reviewers going. I blasted it out all over the place to my, email subscribers and what have you, but I didn't have a physical location launch. So that may be part of your launch plan, a party, but it doesn't have to be. So don't get confused that we're talking about like launch, meaning like, bringing all your favorite 500 friends, just kidding, to an event. Don't do a 500 person event. I mean, unless they're like,
Well,
they're not
then
one where you're buying the drinks, at least. don't
you're
have
leaving out the best part of any sort of party.
Oh, goodness. So just to recap, as you move
No,
into your,
first of all,
so if you have a launch party, have bubbles.
have bubbles.
That's this episode's version of glitter.
Yes. Oh, I have that sign too. Yes. But
Yes, the glitter.
literally, if you're going to have a launch party, have fun. The point of the bubble machine is to have fun with it, right? Understand that, it might snow, maybe you'll get 3 people, maybe it won't be the perfect day. However, maybe it will be, you never know, but have fun with it, right? If you're going to have a party, and invite who you're going to invite and plan ahead. You can do it at a bookstore, you can do it at a park, you can do it at your house, you can do it at
I don't know, a local bar, a local coffee shop.
Yes. Yes. And have fun with it, right? Have balloons, have cake. You can get a cake with your book cover on it. You can get cupcakes with little book covers.
And so my very first launch, it's they're like edible book covers. They peel off, or edible like cake things. So it is a picture, edible, basically photo of your picture or of your book cover. Gosh, I gotta like get my brain right. And it lays across the frosting, and it's the coolest thing ever. And you can cut right through it and eat.
Okay, I think I know we're gonna have cake. We both have book launches in October. I think cake was going to be featured.
Yes,
For
I don't know.
sure.
We'll see. So a lot of that is fun, but don't get distracted from your major push, which is to find your other audiences. Book launches are for your friends, your family, and some of your readers who are local enough to come. This is not you reaching the broader audience that fits with what you write. So there's 2 things, like parties are great, but it isn't your primary marketing or publicity or public relations focus to gain the most new readers. Those people are all going to buy your book anyway, because they're like friends and family. So like, that's the cool part about that. So yes, celebrate, enjoy, but definitely you want to do all this other legwork. And a lot of the other stuff happens in the digital world, in the online world. So if you've done it all your prep work, and this is another reason why I say don't rush. If you don't have a website yet, do not launch your book. Get your website going. Make sure there's a place for people to come and learn more about you. You control all the content on that website. It's like your best business card, if you will, right? And then
Go ahead.
yeah. I was going to say, then also have social media. Pick the one social media platform that makes sense for you. You don't have to be on all of them. I highly recommend you're not, because you're not going to be able to handle it or do it well unless you've hired someone to help you with all of that. It's too many moving parts.
Right. It's, you depending on the age of your viewer, right? Again, we're going back to Jane Friedman's comment, that ideal reader. Right?
That's right.
If you're seeking out your ideal reader and you're going to use social to do it, find out who's using which platform. For example, Book Talk on TikTok is a different user most likely than the people on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Yes.
I'm not saying they can't be the same, but if you're a new author and you don't want to feel overwhelmed and you want to just handle some kind of social, have your 3-page author website, right? You got a home page with your book on it, you've got an about page, and then you've got a contact page, and then maybe a page showing where your book can be purchased. So it doesn't have to be a 20-page website that's highly expensive and hard to manage. You can do it on Wix. It's relatively easy to do. And then, pick a couple social channels. If you're a nonfiction, most likely you might use LinkedIn. If you're writing romance and horror or something like that, you might be on Book Talk.
That's right.
You
Or
might use
YA,
it,
young adult novels
or
too.
YA,
Yep.
right? And their Facebook is probably for the older cozy reader,
Mhm.
older and sassy cozy reader. And then Instagram is somewhere in the middle with for, maybe some others too. So it's all there. It's available there for you, and just make sure that you're making use of a website and some kind of social channel.
That's right. So once you have those things, you're ready to go. You can use those to reach that, like what Jane Friedman says, the ideal readership, your ideal audience. So it's going to take a little time for you to understand that. And, if you're just new to this, you may not realize that book talk is going to be a necessity for you. I am not over there. I probably should be over there, but I haven't taken the time to learn that yet. And it's on the list, it's on the to-do list, right? We'll always have things on your list. Believe me, there will be things that you need to check off. And, you also have to leave time for writing, but we joke about, you write all the book, like there's launch year or something. So the balance, if you're feeling the push pull as you're trying to like launch or release your book, that's normal, where you wish you had more time to write, and it's very hard to keep that schedule going. That's probably a whole nother podcast episode, is how to balance all this out to keep promoting what you've got out while you're trying to create the next thing.
Right. I'm planning it for what it's worth. I have something in October like you do, and then I'm looking to 2026.
Okay,
So
you're going to give
planning into
yourself like a
26.
whole year in
Yeah,
2025 to basically create the content that will then come out in 2026.
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Long game.
It is. And it kind of should be. I mean, I know a lot of authors who write very, very quickly. I'm not one of those authors, so I get it, like planning that schedule out. Let's see. So if you want to use some advertising for your launch process, you will probably be looking at one of three platforms, or maybe all three platforms. We've got Amazon ads, you've got Facebook ads, and then there's also BookBub ads. Those are very different than the featured deal that you may or may not get with BookBub. People try to apply for those, and they're very selective. There's different things about each platform that are good for you. And we probably could talk about advertising and, for sure, multi-part series on advertising, but a real quick tutorial here. Amazon ads are easy to start, very simple, like ads, they get more complex and they take a long ramp up. They're not going to give you immediate gratification or sales. It takes a while to get those impressions going. Facebook ads, you'll see responses more quickly. Facebook ads include something that's visual, a post image type thing, and some language, could be review quotes. And Facebook requires that you have a Facebook page, a business, page, in order to do the advertising. You can't just have your personal profile. You have to have like your author page or your books page. And then there's also BookBub advertising, like I mentioned, and that the BookBub audience is a very much a reduced price kind of audience, and they are looking for deals. So that is usually not the best place to advertise unless you're a little further past your launch, because I do not recommend people launch at a low price for your ebook. You're going to want to keep your regular price going for a while. So that may be a month or two after your launch that you might consider trying BookBub ads. Those also include a visual, a little ad, and those come to the audience in an email where all those featured deals are. And then you're kind of bidding on the space at the bottom of the email where your ad for your book might be featured. So that's like the 1 minute run through what those, types of dashboards are like.
Thank you for that. That's really helpful.
I've never had super good luck with BookBub ads. Featured deals knock it out of the park, when you're doing a freebie or you're doing a 99-cent thing, if you can get one of those. But I go back and forth between Facebook ads and Amazon ads, and they're good for different reasons. So put those in your launch plan and know you're going to have to learn more about that or hire some assistants to get you going on those dashboards. They're all very learnable. The hardest one, I think, to master is Amazon because of the vast quantity of data that you get back. So unless you're a spreadsheet lover, you may need some assistance with that. But otherwise, we're talking about most of your typical publicity type promos and, getting the word out to the right people about your book, like back to that ideal audience again. You're looking at maybe blog tours. If you write mysteries or cozy blog tours, there's very genre specific blog tours out there. Have you done any?
I have not done, I've done interviews. I haven't posted a blog, to a specific one. And frankly, I have applied to a number of them and gotten very little response. So I
Mhm.
don't know if they're just busy. Maybe some of the blogs were older and aren't posting anymore. So, no harm, no foul. But I did a couple of live interviews that went beautifully well, and I had so much
Fun.
fun, and including books and beer.
Oh, yes. So that, and I'll put a link in that replay is not available yet, but when it is, I'll put that in our show notes for this episode. Because that's part of, your book launch, because was it the week of your book launch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. And
So,
so that being said, so those blog tours, if you will, there are a lot of people with podcasts. And if
yes.
you enjoy talking about books, and if you can bring, fun to the conversation, and apply, take your synopsis, take your log line, take your short bio, and apply and see if you can, chat about your books with someone. The Midwest Writers Room with WWA does a wonderful job talking to authors about books and upcoming events. I know their schedule is quite booked, but it doesn't hurt to try. Or they also have, at the very end of every broadcast, they have good news. So if you're a member, you
Oh,
can write in with your good news, and Luella will announce it. Like if you have a book launch coming up, if you have an event coming up, if you've won an award, they're happy to share that information. That's just another benefit by being a member of WWA.
blogs, of course, are written. Once in a while, you might get a video interview type thing. And then, you're sort of trending into like podcast territory, or you're tipping into podcast territory there a little bit with that. There are a lot of people out there creating great content, and they're looking for good guests to have on their shows, whether it's a podcast or have you, on their blog. Those podcast lists, they're out there. You can go in and you can research based on a topic. For instance, maybe you have a theme in your book that's on maybe a tougher topic. You might be a guest on a podcast that isn't about books, but it's maybe about the issue that you're talking about. And especially if you write nonfiction, that certainly could be the case. So it's worth taking that time. And then there is something called a podcast one sheet, if you've ever heard of that. And it's basically taking what would be, say, your book information sheet, which includes all the info about your book. If you've not heard what this is also something that needs to be in your media kit. And it gives all the relevant info on how to order your book. It gives, any accolades. It gives the book description, maybe a little bio about you and maybe your author picture, the book cover. It's a very helpful document. You tweak that just a little bit for going to podcast hosts, and you give maybe a bullet point on the side of topics that you can talk about or cover as a podcast guest. And I got to tell you, the feedback that I get from podcast hosts when they see that sheet come through, it makes their job so much easier for them to say yes to you as a guest. So I love those little sheets. And so what happens is, if you've created already your book information sheet, it sure doesn't take long to adapt that to, being a podcast promo sheet for you, to prove
Right.
you're super cool and you're a good guest and they should invite you on.
Make the host job easy, right?
Yes.
Make the indie bookstore's job easy, right?
It,
Make the podcast hosts easy. So in other words, what you just said, make it easy for them to have you, make it easy for the reader to understand what you've written. And it's much easier on yourself when you're organized in that way.
Oh, very much so. And really what we're talking about here is leveraging other people's audiences, because they've taken the time to build an audience. And if you're relevant to that audience, oh my goodness, that's just exponentially wonderful, because you've got that many more potential book buyers listening to you talk about your book or the themes in your book or the topics in your book. So I'm all about that. I just love if I can hang out with on a podcast that's got, how many thousands of people who listen. I mean, it's a win. It's a win. But it's sort of media placement. If you are able to get into certain media that is very specific to your ideal readership, then you have such a better shot of actually, making that sell books for you, or having that be a point where you're selling more books.
Right.
Yeah.
So in summary, if you will, it's find your ideal reader,
Yes.
play the long game. Don't worry that, oh, it's my debut and I didn't sell much right now this month. Understand that it's a long game. Know how to buy ads. understand the different audiences between Amazon and Facebook and something like BookBub. Have your website, maximize your social in the ways that you can that make sense. Have
Right.
a dynamite media kit with your synopsis, your short description, understand your audience for that sell sheet or one sheet as you described, understand the audience for a podcast, understand the audience for an indie bookstore. Make sure, not greatly different, just make sure you have it available. Practice your interview skills, pretend you're on a podcast, have somebody interview you, take a great author photo. Don't worry if they don't like the first one. You can always like the 300th one that you take. Believe me, I've been there, I've done that, and have a plan a launch party, get a cake with your book cover on it, and enjoy the process, because otherwise, why'd you do it?
Right. Right. And I would love to end there because that summary was so good, but I want to touch on one more thing. I want to talk about reviews and getting reviews. So you briefly mentioned that, sending out ARCs. Say you're new to this world. An ARC is an advanced reader copy. So once your book is ready to go, and this is beyond beta readers here now, this is your book is ready pretty much. Now, will an ARC reader potentially find a typo and tell you about it? Yes. Or if there's an issue, they can come back to you because you're not officially out in the world yet as a published book. Even so, as an indie author, you can fix those typos too. If something went wrong and you missed something, it happens. So you've got advanced reader copies that you are able to give out to people. And you can give, invite people that you've met, I should say, at these conferences or other writers in your genre. Even those bloggers that Tracey's talking about, those bloggers will expect an advanced reader copy if they're going to interview you or give you a review as you're visiting their blog as part of maybe a blog tour. And that is important to get that system all happens before publication, that you're trying to get that information out so that those reviews are going to be, pretty soon posted, if not before your publication, immediately after. Quick note, you can only post before on certain other platforms. If your book is up for pre-sale, say on Amazon even, you're not allowed to post till release date. But Goodreads, for instance, is a wonderful review community, and BookBub as well. So most of the people that you're going to be asking are going to have at least one place to review your book. And then there are review services like NetGalley, and you can certainly buy one of those, review services, and then you're not going to know those reviewers. So they may sign up for your book, and it's fairly low percentage of people who actually end up posting the review, but different genres do better inside NetGalley. Also, then there are editorial reviews. Now, these are the bigger places. You could, as an indie author, you could purchase a Kirkus review, or if you're traditionally published, your publisher should be sending these advanced copies out to these review services. So editorial reviews are going to be the higher level places that people recognize the name of those review websites and such. You've got kind of a 3-tier thing: review services that you have to buy into that service, like NetGalley. There's another one called Edelweiss. There's some similar ones in there that are also free. Hidden Gems is one of them. There's some different ones. And they, maybe you only get a few reviews from each one, but you're building, right? You're building. And then you've got your ARC system, which is, sending those free copies out. Usually it's digital copies. If someone really, really, really wants a printed copy, and, you can send those out. I prefer doing digital copies. It's all about expense mitigation at that point, where you want maybe not to spend quite so much sending those out. As much as you can, you want to get as many reviews popping in to all these places as proof that other people should buy your book as close to your launch date or as soon after as you can. So that's kind of the game, because then when you go to run ads and people circle back and click through and they see, oh, look, she's got 50 reviews on this book already, and it just came out 2 weeks ago. Awesome. I can trust this. The reviews are good. So it's sort of the social proof you need to make the spend on ads worthwhile. I want to throw that in there because it's a really important part of indie publishing, or I should say launching your book, whether you're indie or traditional. You should have more help if you're traditional from your publisher, but it gets glossed over, and it's essential that you have that proof with those reviews. But if you, like we said, if you already have your book out and you're sad because you don't have a lot of reviews, you can revisit this and bump up the number of reviews that you have. This is not like, oh my gosh, I'm done now. I mean, I can never gain these reviews. That's not true.
They'll trickle in, and then you keep talking about it, and then you keep, submit for awards.
Yes.
There's some legitimate awards, you can go after. There's a lot that you can do that makes sense for your schedule, your time frame. And you produced a book, right? You've done it. You've done what many people want to do, but haven't gotten there yet. So
Right.
give yourself credit for that, because it's a huge accomplishment. And then remember, it takes time and it's a long game, and you're seeking that ideal reader who hopefully will provide some reviews for you. And there's no reason why you can't get them within the first 12 months of your book.
I think this conversation probably, because it was fast paced, lots of lists, it probably feels a little overwhelming if you are just dipping your toe into your very first book release, book launch. But I say just pick one task and work on that one at a time. Keep yourself from feeling overwhelmed in that way. And that goes back to your suggestion, Tracey, with this list making. I feel always relief when I put everything in a list and I go, okay, what's next? Focus on that. Check that off. I mean, very much. I even have put things on a list I've already done so I can check them off. I know that's a little crazy, but
good for you. I'm not a linear thinker. To me, like, my husband is, he's a math physics person. He was a math major, and he literally does math problems that I'll be reading or writing, and he does math problems for fun, just for fun.
that's
And
not
so
my brain.
he's a linear thinker, I'm a round thinker. I'm a creative thinker. I think like this. And so for me to say, okay, no, I have to sit down and start writing lists, it made a difference in my motivation and my organization and my ability to plan for things like we just discussed.
Yes. There's no real perfect way to launch your book. There are things that you should do, but everybody takes this information and then makes it work for them in the way that makes sense for their life, their budget, right? And their particular book. So there's really no, there probably are wrong ways to do it, but there's ways to customize this so that you aren't feeling overwhelmed or even, just overwhelmed budgetarily, because some of these things do cost money to do as well. So,
Right.
So yay. So there.
And when in doubt, when you're feeling down, get yourself a bubble machine.
So for everybody who's only listening to this and not seeing us, because we record this as a video as well, there are bubbles flying across Tracey's screen because she's a bubble machine. You always have the cool stuff. I have no cool stuff. So thanks for joining us for this episode. We're going to put all the things we talked about in the show notes, and we'll see you next time. We have a little bit of a gap now for a little summer break, but we'll be back in September, right? We have July and August off and back in September. So thanks for joining us.
Happy summer.